Thank you.
Right.
Are you suggesting that someone's trying to make a real-life sequel?
Stab 2? Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
Two in the box!
Ready to go.
We be fast and
They be slow.
Wow. A second Super Saiyan? Second in order, perhaps, but by no means in stature. Your fight is with me now.
I'll have my revenge, and Deathstalker too.
Man, I can't fucking believe this. Another basement, another elevator. How can the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
Oh, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
Hey everyone, this is your host Chris of Inside the Sequel podcast where we, talk about sequel movies that don't get enough love or attention, and we bring them to light and give reasons why you should watch them. It's been a minute. It feels weird to be back on the mic without being as a guest. But yeah, we are back Inside the Sequel after a 5-month hiatus of taking care of personal life and personal issues with, just life's crazy sometimes. And sometimes movies aren't, going to always be the best escape. There were times this year where I was just kind of watching movies and being in bad places. And, that's what happens, I guess, when you watch Woody Allen movies and Roman Polanski stuff. You just kind of get to dark, bad places and you catch a charge. But luckily, none of that happened too much to me. But I just want to say to everyone, I appreciate all the support and the good vibes. And, I'm happy to be back. I think the last time I did a podcast episode was with Daniel from Cobwebs doing a Billy Wilder episode. So I'm happy that I got to do that. But yeah, if you're new to the channel, again, Inside the Sequel, we talk about sequel movies that don't get enough love or attention. And it's been 5 months and I don't know why. I have an idea as why. But I didn't do a January episode where I highlighted my 5 favorite sequels from last year. 2021 was a big year for us. And before we get into it, this episode is just going to be my 5 sequel discoveries from last year. Not necessarily my 5 favorite episodes or favorite guests, because honestly, I love every guest I have. And again, 2021 was a big year for the podcast. We had such awesome guests. Some guests I never thought possible to be on here. But there were 5 sequels that I watched for the first time last year and did episodes on. And I just want to kind of talk about those movies. Last year we did like our top 5 sequels and stuff, but we missed it. So we're going to play catch up today. But if you do like sequel movies, I definitely recommend you email the show at sequelpod@gmail.com. I've had great fans of the show email me and reach out to me on Twitter, on Gmail. I want to shout out Jay Luck. He's been someone who's constantly emailed me and given nothing but nice support and recommendations. I guess I'm just really big in Canada because he's Canadian. Mitch and Boozy are great, Canadian boys. But, Jay Luck, you were really supportive. Even when I was like thinking I wasn't going to do anything, your emails always kind of kept me thinking I should come back and do podcasting. But yeah, so email the show because it really does mean a lot. And, if you ever want to be a guest on here, great way to reach out to me that way. Or drop a DM on Twitter. So yeah. Let's see, 5 months. What's been going on with me? Again, we don't have a guest today. It's just going to be me. So you're going to have to listen to just this voice. So, I don't know what else to tell you, but we'll get back to regular schedules. We usually do like 3 or 4 episodes a month. However, the YouTube channel Hertastic Reviews has definitely kicked back open. So we might reduce the remaining of this year's podcasting to maybe 2 episodes a month and then 2 YouTube videos. Or 3 podcast episodes and 1 video a month. I'm still working on that, but we're just going through the top 100 things of all time. If you're interested to know, we're going to be around the 70s in the next video. Usually just drops, in a week. So definitely check out that. But we'll go back to our regular schedule with having guests and sequels, and I'll be announcing them on Twitter as time goes on. So definitely check that out. But yeah, 2022 has been a crazy year. We've had amazing movies, and honestly, some of the difficulty of hopping back on and doing sequels is there's been so much good shit in theaters. I would say arguably 2021 there wasn't as many great things early on. Like early on in 2021, I mean, I was all about sequels and direct-to-DVD things because there wasn't stuff that got me that excited. But at the end of 2021, there was so much good stuff. And then 2022 carried that on even more. And especially when it comes to sequels, like, Sonic 2 comes to mind. You got a Scream movie. You got a Texas Chainsaw movie. There's some great stuff I definitely want to highlight. I've been binging franchises to kind of get back into the flow of things here. So look out for that. I guess if I'm being really honest, I'm really happy just to be talking to everyone. And I know the subscribers that follow the podcast are very loyal and great people. Some of my fellow podcasters have been really supportive and, just like off the mic, things that I've been dealing with my own personal life and mental health in that way. And then scheduling a move. So yeah, if anybody who's known me and the podcast, we're based out of Springfield, Missouri. Well, we are moving to Chicago, Illinois in the next month. So be patient with us with getting episodes out in that way. But if you're in the Chicago area and you want to be on the podcast, I mean, this is going to be your time. So I'm looking at anybody from F This Movie who listens in, which I doubt. We're not that big. But anyway, yeah, just share your support. I appreciate all the kind words. I'm just happy to be back. We're going to be talking about the top 5 sequel movies that I watched last year. I don't know how to word top 5 sequel discoveries of 2021. I'll just go a little bit into the movies and why I like them and, the people who were on there. Again, these aren't like my top 5 guests or top 5 episodes I did. These are just the 5 sequel movies that I watched for the first time and loved them. So, and maybe some of them had guests that I really enjoyed. So in no particular order, this is just a short, episode to just get us back into the flow. I'm gonna start off hot. I'm gonna start with maybe one of my favorite franchises I discovered last year. I'm gonna go with the Purge election year. Like, good God, like the Purge franchise is like elevated. Like, it's fucking like it gave me a new franchise to dig my teeth into, and like I watched it with my partner and she was super into it. I was always so fucking hesitant with these Purge movies because I thought it was, to be honest, very MAGA such as, it felt like it was so on the nose and kind of like unapologetically like a Purge election year. It was like, oh man, like it's gonna be like the current election at the time, and I just don't want that like toxicness around me. But once I gave the Purge movies a chance, I fell in love. Now, I will say the Purge election year is probably my favorite year and favorite one, and then that's part 3. I would say the first Purge, like, which is actually part 4. The first Purge, the very first movie is called just The Purge. I think it's the weakest in my opinion. But then you get the Forever Purge that recently came out last year too, which, oh man, like that was bonkers. It's like when the Purge movies are kind of like when not as egregious as Rob Zombie, which isn't a bad thing because I love him, but it's more like campy Rob Zombie in some way. I can't really describe it, but we had our boy Mike Scott from the Atkins Undisputed podcast, and he came on. He wore a Purge mask like the whole time during recording, and he was talking about how he's gonna come to my place during Purge night. Like, I'm first on his list for some reason, and like just totally got canceled. But it was a great episode. I definitely recommend you listen to it. Mike Scott's one of those great podcasters that you just have him on and music just happens. It's just crazy. But the Purge election year was just, I watched the movie technically twice. I watched the first time and then I watched it again to get ready for the podcast. And man, like, it's just, I can't describe the Purge. Like, if you think it's going to be too like on the nose, it kind of is, but it's in a fun way. Like, it's very, God, I don't know how to really say it, but it kind of makes fun of the things you think it's going to be championing, like all the rich white elites, like they're going to, it's just like almost like a hostile type thing. It's very angry and aggressive. Yes, but it's not like that at all. It actually champions like the minority folks of the movie, like, the people who don't have a lot of money, and they rise up. And I love that shit. And it's so graphic and it's violence at times. And yeah, just the Purge movies are just so good and they're so well directed. But yeah, the Purge movies, Purge election year, definitely one of my favorite discoveries. And definitely a franchise that I'm going to constantly revisit, like probably during each October, I'll probably watch an installment or so. So yeah, I definitely recommend the Purge movies if you haven't seen them. And thanks Shout out to Mike Scott for being on for that episode. Let's go into the next one. It was The Lost World, Jurassic Park 2 with Boozy from the Terror Table. Is it crazy to say in 2022 that last year was the first time I saw Jurassic Park 2? Like, seeing the first Jurassic Park, I never thought, I knew Jurassic Park was popular, but I was never, like, into it. I was like, kind of like Spielberg dinosaurs, like, whatever. Like, you know, you probably, you know, just weren't, like, elevated enough to, like, fantasy with, like, you know, dragons and trolls and stuff. Instead, you like dinosaur movies, you know. I don't know what was in my head. I eventually, as an adult, watched Jurassic Park and enjoyed it. It's good stuff. And then I just watched Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World last year with Boozy because Boozy fucking stands this movie. And it was a pleasant surprise. Like, it's kind of like a King Kong mixed in with Jurassic Park, mixed in with 98 Godzilla in some weird way mashup. I like it a lot. It's an easy watch. It's got the scares. It's got the great action. Honestly, I think it's a better looking movie than maybe the first two. I mean, it kind of falls off the wagon a little in the second half of the movie, but The Lost World, like, I never would have thought I was going to be that big of a fan to, like, be able to do a whole podcast episode about it. I mean, The Lost World, like, I don't know. I haven't watched the third one, but I have seen Fallen Kingdom. I haven't even seen the first Jurassic World movie. So, I mean, and then there's a new one on the horizon. It's a weird franchise for me. It's not something I ever really wanted to, like, sink my teeth into. I don't know, Godzilla and Kong and, like, those things I thought were more interesting to me growing up than the Jurassic Park movies. I don't know. I have this weird relation with Spielberg where, you know, is he, like, the best director ever? Like, I don't know. I think Ready Player One is probably one of his better movies in my opinion, and apparently that's a wrong opinion. It's kind of like James Cameron for me, where it's like, yeah, like, these directors make amazing movies, but sometimes with their latter stuff, I kind of forget, like, they were actually that good. I don't know. It's weird. But, like, I mean, Avatar 2 looks good, so I love James Cameron, but again, sometimes I forget how great James Cameron is, if that makes any sense at all. But yeah, The Lost World with Boozy, a good time. It kind of felt like that Joe Rogan and Elon Musk episode. I don't know why, just similar vibes. I don't know, Boozy is just different gravy on the mic, so shout that episode out. And then we're going to move on to number 3. Again, these are in no particular order, but I'm going with Hellboy 2 with Daniel Epler from the Cobwebs podcast. Man, the Hellboy movies are freaking peak films, guy. Like I was late. Last year I watched the Hellboy movies for the first time after years of Daniel saying you should watch the Hellboy movies. I just never thought that the Hellboy movies would be like some of the best movies of all of the decade of the 2000s. Like, yes, I know Guillermo del Toro is great for his stuff, like Pan's Labyrinth and, you know, Kronos in the 90s and, you know, all his other stuff. He won the Shape of Water Oscar, of course. But with the Hellboy movies, it felt weird. Like, I just, when they were coming out, I don't know, they just didn't catch my radar. And then the newer one came out and I thought, oh, I should check that out, but I didn't watch the first two. So, you know, Daniel's like, get me on for Hellboy 2. And man, like, I watched those movies like almost back to back. It was just, they're 2-hour long movies, but they're smooth. Like, it's like when you get Grey Goose, you know, it's like, you know, you pop a bottle, like you just take shots of Grey Goose all night and then it's like water to you and then you pass out and it's like a good pass out, you know, like, I don't know, like that's how Hellboy 2 is for me. It's like, it's just so good. I can't really, I'm smiling right now just thinking about the Hellboy movies, but Hellboy 2 in particular is such a gorgeous looking movie. The different color tone from the first one to the second one is completely different. Like, the first one's just a gothic film. The second one is just so beautiful, like beautifully daunting. Has some of like the best like creature designs of the 2000s for sure. I mean, that's what you get with Guillermo del Toro. So Hellboy 2 and Ron Perlman, like, I had been watching a lot of, like, unintentionally watching a lot of, like, movies that had Ron Perlman in them. So, like, Alien 3 was one that, you know, or was it Alien Resurrection he's in? I think it's Alien Resurrection he's in. And I watched him in a few other spots. And then I was like, oh, he's also in Hellboy 2, 1 and 2. So, I mean, that was great. So, Hellboy 2, if you haven't seen any of the first two Hellboy movies, just watch them. they're so good. Like they have no, like they do have business meaning. Like let me think about like early 2000s superhero movies, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, the X-Men movies. We cover these in this episode. I would say Hellboy 1 and 2 are absolutely like almost at the top of the list, if not at the top. But yeah, gotta give credit to that episode. It was just so fun. Next, we're going to go with Blade 2. We're going to keep the Del Toro train moving. So we got Blade 2, and on that episode, we had Matt Bledsoe from the Film Feast podcast and Daniel again. And we just kicked shit, shot the shit, and I think we drank way too much coffee that morning, and we just talked Blade 2 the entire time because, some motherfuckers always have to be trying to ice skate uphill. Like that's like a part of like almost my everyday language at this point. I'm not the biggest Wesley Snipes fan, not because I don't like his stuff. I just haven't watched a lot, so I can't say that I'm a big fan. But when it comes to the Blade movies, at least the first two, yeah, it's kind of the same thing with Hellboy 2 with Blade 2. That shit's fun. Like that's good action superhero type film right there. Also, I love how Matt Bledsoe on that episode had like admitted to like dressing up like Blade, like as a kid, and it's like if you know Matt Bledsoe, you're like, yeah, he totally would, but like I could never imagine seeing that. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, Blade 2 isn't as good as Hellboy 2, I would say, and I hate to compare the two, but they're both Del Toro films and superhero gothic films. But Blade 2 is just so much fun. The action is great. I don't know why it took me so long to watch at least the first Blade movie, but then watching the second one, the second one is way better than the first one in my opinion. And I can't say that I've seen Blade Trinity because I was warned not to watch it. So, that's what we did. I just haven't seen the third one. To me, it's just going to be a 1 and 2 movie, probably. But I definitely recommend Blade 2 as well. That was just such a fun episode. Just kind of like, talking about our experiences with it. And I think that consensus is Blade 2 is the best, I would say. So, and then finally, the last movie was Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2 with Doug McCambridge from Good Times, Great Movies podcast. I can't believe that movie. Like, and then we had eventually we had really great guests. I mean, we did have great guests all of year, but some of the biggest guests of last year that we had were Roman Chimenti and Tyler Jensen, who did the Scream Queen documentary, who actually referenced that episode that they checked out that we did. Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. I can't believe that's an actual movie to the original Prom Night film, which the first Prom Night with Jamie Lee Curtis, I'm not even a fan of. I don't think it's that great, but Hello, Mary Lou 2 is like an insanely different take on like what a sequel needs to be. I was like, what the fuck is this movie and why is Doug making me watch it? I mean, eventually Doug would have his fingerprints all over making my life miserable in 2021 when he had me watch Caddyshack 2 and then The Howling 2 as well. Like, oh my God. Like, Doug McCambridge had a year with Inside the Sequel with these movies he was recommending. Love the guy, but he loves to torture me because he'll know I'm going to say yes to any sort of like unknown schlocky horror movie. But like with Hello, Mary Lou 2, you can watch it, it streams, fairly easy to find. But like, it felt like I was watching a movie that shouldn't exist, but it does, and I think people appreciate that it did. So, I mean, I don't really know what more to say about Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. I guess it does have a Blu-ray as well. So for, if you first time listening here, we love Blu-rays. We talk about physical media collecting and such. That one is, I guess it's a movie that people are championing to get a Blu-ray for. I don't know. It's like a movie like it's a ghost, but like it's not even tied. I think the only way it's tied to the first Prom Night movie is that it takes place in the same high school, but there's no returning characters of any sort. So yeah, it was just a surreal out of body type of experience with that movie. So I would definitely check it out just because it seems like it has one of those cult followings. So yeah, those are the 5, first time Discovery Watch movies. For me, there's plenty of them for sure that I didn't get to talk about, but a few I want to highlight, just if you haven't gone back and, listened to every episode from last year, I would say that the Carmelite episode with Return to Oz deserves to be talked about because that movie was nightmare fuel and I did not expect it to. I watched it late at night and I was kind of juiced, I was a little sauced. And oh my God, there was just one moment in that movie where it just terrified the shit out of me. And so yeah, shout out Carmelita for that. She also was on for Desperado. Oh my God, that was a spicy episode. If anybody knows me, Robert Rodriguez, I want to talk about more of his stuff. So Spy Kids 2 or 3D? I don't know which of those will make an appearance in 2022 on this podcast. So definitely give your thoughts on that below. Let's see, we had Mark Warner talk about Transformers Dark of the Moon, which is the third installment of the lackluster blockbusters, which is what I coined the Transformer movies. But that's the third one. So I had to rewatch the first one and the second one to get to the third. And Mark Warner, I'm out for blood when I have him on here again after that, because that was an out-of-body experience watching those movies again in like 2021. But, I got to give him credit. The third installment was a strong one, which I wasn't expecting. Let's see. He redeemed himself though. He came back on and we did Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And that was a good time. So as long as we don't talk about Halloween Kills in 2022, I'll be happy. I know that's a sequel, but Halloween Kills will not be an episode. It'll be a subject of jokes and memes maybe on the podcast, but it's not going to be talked about. Let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, we did the Star Wars Vember, special during November, because like you get like Noir Vember, Sad Vember, and these other things, and I thought, why not do Star Wars Vember, where I had Daniel from Cobwebs again, and we just talked about the sequel trilogy. Fitting that we talk about Star Wars and sequel movies in the sequel trilogy, and I think that those were really well received episodes where we convinced people to rewatch Last Jedi and admit that they were wrong. But it seems like Rise of Skywalker was the one that people kind of came around on, which is awesome. Like if you can, in the world of toxic Star Wars fandoms and just comic book fandoms and nerd culture, to have positivity with Star Wars is a rare occasion, and we did it on the podcast. So I would say that was a win. That was a big dub for 2021 for us. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how we can finish off the second half of this year. I know, again, we're late as hell to the fucking party. But I'm excited to see what 2022 we can get ourselves into. We ended it on a high note. I'm hoping to get Mark Wheaton back on if he's listening. He's probably writing another novel. He'll probably get one done by the time I get to have him back on. But there's so many great guests there. But yeah, let me know what podcast episodes you'd like for us to do. What sequel movies have you watched? Like, obviously Sonic 2 is going to be talked about. We binged through a few DreamWorks franchises that I'd love to cover on this podcast. So yeah, definitely give some suggestions in the comments. Shoot us an email. Again, thank you all for the patience and the support that you've given me in this podcast. And I'm just saying, Inside the Sequel's back, baby. And hopefully you are ready for that. I definitely want to give a few shout outs to other podcasts that have been doing really great lately. I've been keeping my ear on the pods and listening to great episodes. Again, Cobwebs with Daniel Epler. Did a great Kino Corner episode with Anthony King of the Cult Movie Podcast, and again Matt Bledsoe of the Film Feast. Yeah, that was such a good one. Nathan Jones was on Lindsay Wilkins' Schlock and All podcast, and they talked about All the Haunts Be Ours, which is that new folk horror, super pretentious box set from Severin that people love. They were covering some of those films, and I was actually I learned something. I had found some appreciation. So, shout that podcast out as well. If you have like any suggestions, you can follow me at Hertastic_Chris on Twitter. Follow us at SequelPod on Twitter as well. Email the show at sequelpod@gmail.com. But I want to thank you all for the support, and keep an eye out for our next episodes on Twitter, which is usually where we'll make the announcements or the lineup for the month. So yeah, keep a lookout for that. Other than that, my name again is Chris Hurtado at Inside the Sequel, and And remember, if you are watching sequel movies in 2022, you really care about cinema,